Hi, welcome to the Black TV Show podcast. I'm your host, Miriam. Welcome back. This is episode 2, and we're going to be taking a deep dive into the Cosby Show season 1, episode 2, Goodbye, Mr. Fish. How are you guys doing? We're still in lockdown at the current time that I'm recording this. The holidays have gone by. We're going to get into this episode. I forgot to mention in the last episode all the characters of the show. So I'm going to go in, do a short summary of each person. So we have the father, which is Dr. Heathcliff Huxtable. Of course, he's, the lead of the show, and it's played by Mr. Cosby. And he is a OGBYN, so he's most of the time all you're gonna hear is he needs to go to the hospital to deliver a baby, and his office is actually in the basement of this house, so we're gonna be seeing that a lot. And then Claire Huxtable, she's an attorney at law, and you can tell, like, the way she talks, you can tell she is a strong, independent Black woman, which I love, and I just love whenever. And she's played by Felicia Rashad, and I just love the way she acts. Like, she is very stern. She can be really like a happy person, having fun, and then if you get in trouble, we'll be talking about those moments later on in other episodes, but I just love it. And then we have, currently from where we are right now, we have Denise Huxtable, which is played by Lisa Bonet, and she's kind of the wild child and does her own thing. As we see in this episode, her outfits are just so different from everyone else, but it is in a way so kind of iconic. And so she is, the wild child of the family. And then there is Theodore Huxtable, usually you call him Theo, and he's the only son of the family, and at this time he's actually 14, so he's in grade 9. Oh, and Denise is 2 years older, so she's in grade 11. And then we have Vanessa Huxtable, who is at this moment the third child, but then in future episodes she'll be the fourth child, and she's, when we get to later seasons, you'll see how I don't know, her character develops in a different way, it feels like. So we'll get to that in future episodes. And then we have the baby of the family, which is Rudy Huxtable, who is played by Keisha Knight Pulliam. If the most recent thing that probably people know her from is from Tyler Perry's House of Pain, which I love that show. Another great Black TV right there. I love that show. And maybe sometime in the future I might talk about the show. And she plays Miranda there. But on this show, she plays the baby. She is 5 years old when she first starts. And apparently, when she started, like, she didn't know how to read. So she was able, by being on the show, she was able to learn how to read, which is pretty cool to think about that. So then that's the whole family. Of course, we are missing Sandra, but I will talk about her in the episode that she comes in later on this season. So, I was saying in the last episode about the address of this house that they are at. So in the show, they're always going to say it's 10 Stigwood Avenue, but the actual address is 10 Leroy Street. And as I said, I was there. I've been there before. I went to New York in 2014, and I made sure that I went to go see the house because I just loved the show. So if you guys ever are in New York, you might as well check that out. At the time that I went, it was under construction. So we'll see. I don't know if it's in the same, it should not be, because that was 2014. So that was 7 years ago. But yeah, so we're going into the episode of season 1, episode 2, Goodbye, Mr. Fish. This aired on September 27th, 1984. yet again, 11 years before I was born. So basically, the summary of this episode is Cliff struggles over how to tell his 5-year-old Rudy that her pet goldfish has died. So for this episode, there is no storyline A and no storyline B, and there's also no guest stars, which I actually tend to like those kind of episodes where they're literally just stuck on the main set, which is the house, and it's just the main characters. And I actually enjoy those episodes in different shows. There's one show on one episode from from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air that's called Sleepless in Bel-Air, and that one is also like that, where it's just the main family, and I love those kind of episodes. It's just it plays off. It's very, I like how they play off of each other instead of having new people coming in. And so we start in the living room, and Cliff is trying to sleep, and Vanessa interrupts him, and he starts saying, I've been working for 18 hours and delivered 8,000 babies. And Cliff was like, it has to be important if you're waking me up. And then Vanessa's like, yeah, Cliff, she tells Cliff that Rudy's goldfish has died. So he's like, okay, does she know about it? And then Vanessa's like, well, she's feeding him. And so Cliff gets up and decides to go up with Vanessa to Rudy's room. And while that's happening, Claire comes in and she's saying she has this great news that she wants us to tell, but Cliff is like, not now. And then Claire's kind of sad that no one wants to listen to her good news. And then Theo comes in the door and he walks by her and says, I don't really want to listen. So she was, not happy about that. And I understand, if you have something great or something you want to say to somebody and like everyone tends to ignore you about it, it makes you feel sad. It's just like, I want to share my joy with other people. So I understand, the frustration that Claire has. And so then we get upstairs, and by the way, I mentioned to say this, but the set has changed. If you've noticed from the first episode to the second episode, every set, except for the kitchen. I think the kitchen is basically the same. It's just, but all the sets have changed. So now you see the bathroom is further back on the right side. And then, of course, the living room set is like a whole different. It seems so much bigger. So we get upstairs, and Cliff tells the story about getting the fish with Rudy. Like, he's telling the story to Vanessa. And it's just like, why do I need to hear the story? Like, if I was Vanessa, I'd be like, why am I hearing this story? And basically it's a story of like when they went to get the fish, and it took like 20 minutes to find the fish, and finally Rudy's like, you know what, let me try to get it, and then Lamont jumped up in the air and went into, but of course that's probably not true. But this is the start of all the crazy stories that Cliff says in the show. He tends to be over the top with his stories. So we're starting off with this one right now. So, yeah. And so when they get into the room, Cliff doesn't really say to Rudy, like, the fish has died yet. So Vanessa's, like, asking him, like, why are you, like, stalling and all that stuff? So Cliff plays around, and he literally takes the fish out of the water, which to me isn't that not good? Like, doesn't that mean they're gonna die anyways if they're out of the water? I'm not sure. I don't know how long fish can be out of the water, but he like literally flips it, and I'm like, we can see the fish has died, okay? So I've noticed it seems this is the first time that Rudy is learning about death. I've noticed from this. And I feel like this is a good way to talk about death because it's not an actual person, it's a fish. And I like the comedic timing of how they talk to her about it, you know? Cliff says, you know, that Lamont has gone away, and Rudy's like, no, he's right here, you know? And then Vanessa's like, he decreased. And I'm like, when I first heard that, I was like, what? Decrease? What's degrees? And then Cliff corrects her and says, decease. And then Rudy's like, what is decease? And then Cliff says, dead. And Theo comes in, and Theo looks at the fish and be like, your fish is dead. And then Rudy's like, no, it's not, you know? And then they were like, yes, he has passed away. So they give Rudy her time alone to mourn, and they go. So Vanessa and Cliff leave, and Cliff asks Vanessa, what do you think would cheer her up? And Vanessa says, maybe her favorite food. And she says, let's make hot dogs. And Cliff is like, no, that's your favorite. Which I feel like that would be me. Like, if someone asked me what would the person's favorite, I would rather say my favorite. You know, I want to eat the food that I like. So I agree with Vanessa on choosing what she wants and not Rudy's. but um, but then they were like, no scrambled eggs, so, which is weird because I wouldn't want scrambled eggs for dinner. But they go downstairs, and they're now in the kitchen. Everyone's eating. Oh, and I forgot, I missed that Claire catches Denise and wants to tell her great news, but the phone rings and Denise leaves, and of course Claire's not really happy. So we're at the kitchen, and they're eating dinner. Rudy doesn't want to eat her dinner. And Theo makes a joke about saying, "Good thing we didn't have fish tonight." Like, what? That is a low blow, you know, right there. Um, like, so Cliff gets upset, being like, "You're not gonna eat if you're gonna act like that," basically. And then Rudy's like, "I don't want to eat. I just want to go, you know, to my room." So Claire is like, "Yeah, well, I'll take you up." So while she's about to take her up, she's like, "I want to tell you about my amazing story." And Rudy's like, "Not now." And I love it. Like that, it's the cutest thing, but it's funny, you know? And I love that with the show. I just love the comedic timing of the show, you know? And also one thing I want to mention is Claire's jumpsuit, that purple, I don't know if it's like purple blue, but I love it. I would so wear that right now. Like, I feel like it's so in style right now. So that outfit was amazing. And so then the rest of the kids are eating the eggs, and Denise puts so much ketchup on her eggs. I'm with you, Denise. Like, that is so me. A lot of my friends make a joke that I love ketchup, that I'm obsessed with ketchup. I guess I am, because I do put a lot of ketchup on my eggs, or just in general, well, not all foods, but a lot of foods I put a lot of ketchup. So, I go with what Denise is doing. And then, so then the kids are, joking about doing a funeral and getting the reverend to do the eulogy. And Cliff is like, you know what? That is a great idea. And he goes to the phone, and all three of the kids are like, no, we're not trying to be crazy people, like being insane people. And so Cliff is like in the middle of dialing, and like, I guess the reverend picks up, and they were like, we'll do anything that you want us to do. We'll do the funeral and everything. And so then Cliff is like, is Christmas on the same day? And I'm like, really? Why would you ask that kind of question? Because of course it's on the same day. So then we go on to the second act of this episode. So it must, like, if this is back in 1984, there's probably a commercial break at this moment. So we're back on, and nobody wants to listen to Claire's good story, and Cliff tries to listen, and his beeper starts to go off in the middle of the story. So basically, the story is Claire starts her day at work, Claire, yeah, so she starts her work looks at this contract with the construction company, and that she was able to save over $10,000, and Mr. Greenbrook Sr. Saved for him. is that Claire looked at the contract and was able to save $10,000 to Mr. Greenbook Senior, and that's it. And Cliff is like, "This is the saddest story ever." And so, and during the when he calls the hospital, he's like, "Oh, it's Mrs. Davis, ninth child." So like he knows how it's gonna go. He always tends to say that about a lot of these pregnant people. I'm like, really? Is all these pregnant people having so many children? I'm not sure. I don't know how it was like in the 80s, but and then Vanessa comes in and says, "Where is Lamont going to be?" And so Cliff is like, "In heaven." So she leaves, and so then she comes back and being like, "Where's he actually going?" And he's like, "The river." I'm like, wow, to really tell the truth to your 5-year-old child, gonna, I don't know. And so then Cliff tells Claire that we're doing a funeral, and he picks out a black dress for her, and she's like, "What? Like, why are we doing this? This is stupid." I agree with you. I don't know why, but I guess it has to just go along. And so then everyone's getting dressed up, and Vanessa comes out, and it looks like the outfit that she's wearing is like a ballerina outfit or something like that. It's all black, and like it's a black tights, like a black leotard with black tights, a see-through tights. So it looks like some kind of ballet outfit. And Cliff is like, "This is not really appropriate for a funeral." And she's like, "This is the only thing I have black." Which I understand, girl. Like, for me, I have a lot of black clothes, but I don't have any other kind of colored clothes, so I wouldn't be able to wear other colors. So I understand her dilemma. And then we have Denise, which she's like all colorful. She's not really in black. And the reason why she's dressed like this is because she has to leave within, I think, like 15 minutes to meet up with a friend. So she's like, "I'm just going to be in this funeral and then dip and hang out with my friend." And then, of course, Theo comes out with a full tux. And then we get to the bathroom, and Rudy comes in, and she's wearing a blue dress. And Vanessa says that it's Lamont's favorite dress because it reminds him of the sea. And I'm like, what? And oh yeah, and then for Denise's, she's wearing sunglasses, so Cliff is like, "This is not a Hollywood funeral. You need to take off the glasses." And when she takes off, she has all this eye makeup on like one side of her face again. And he's like, "Just put back the sunglasses on." And so then Cliff does the eulogy, and Rudy interrupts and says she wants to watch TV, which is such a normal thing for a 5-year-old child. Like, why would they want to do this funeral? They'd rather, watch some TV. And Cliff is like, "No, we're doing a funeral for your friend." And she's like, "No, I want to watch now." I love the way she says it. Oh, I love it. And Claire was like, "Well, if Rudy doesn't want this funeral, then she doesn't need to be here. She can go watch TV." And I see, this is when Claire she's able to control the situation really well. And the Vanessa and Theo, they're trying to leave. Theo's like, the goldfish didn't say goodbye to him, so why should I say goodbye to the fish? I'm like, that doesn't really make sense, but it's a good excuse, I guess, in a way. And so then you really notice that Cliff is the only one that wants this funeral, and Claire thinks this is ridiculous to have this funeral, which is so true. It is ridiculous. And also the fact that like there's a woman in the hospital that needs to deliver a baby, and he's like, "Oh, I forgot." So he like by accident dumps the fish in the toilet, and then he ends up flushing the toilet. And Rudy comes back to the washroom, and Cliff is like, "Oh, do you want time with Lamont?" And she's like, "No, she's like, "I want privacy." And then he's like, "Oh, do you want time with Lamont?" And then she's like, "No, I just want to use the bathroom." First of all, like at 5 years old, I didn't know what privacy meant. So the fact that's crazy to me that like she knew that word. That amazes me because I don't think I knew what privacy meant. Of course, I was very slow with learning words, so maybe it's a different story. I'm not sure. Um, and so then we end the show with Rudy kicking out Cliff and Claire so she can use the bathroom. Um, I really like this. I really like this episode. As I said, it's just the cast, and they're all just in the house. It's not like we're going to a different location. Um, this is a good episode to teach kids about death. Um, I think my first experience with death is when I was 8, so when my grandmother died. I actually saw her probably 9 months before she died. And it was a little, it's different when you're not physically in the same area as where, like, my grandmother died in Africa, and I'm here in Canada. So I didn't really understand it as much. I didn't really know what death really meant. I just heard a whole bunch of crying from everyone. Um, for me, I definitely remember not crying. So because I just couldn't understand what that meant. So I feel like just like how Rudy's like, what is deceased? What is dead? Like she didn't know those words. So it it's a I feel like, it's sad that the goldfish died, but I feel like that's a good way to learn about death and the concept of that word and of the concept of life basically with death. Um, so I want to know from you guys, when did you learn about the concept of death? Um, you know, as I said, I learned it when I was 8. Um, and so I feel like the lesson of this episode is that death is a part of life and you just got to live your life. Basically, I feel like that's my takeaway. You guys can tell me what your opinions are. And I feel like the hashtag of this show is deadfish, because that's basically all we were talking about on this show or on this episode. It was this, as I said, this is one great episode. The whole funeral is probably one of the top scenes of the series that people talk about. So this is another top episode to watch. Uh, Please leave a 5-star rating, subscribe, and I will see you next week for uh, season 1, episode 3, which is Bad Dreams. So thank you for joining, and I hope that you hear next episode. Bye!